Having rescued Swami Ramanuja and magically transported him to Sri Kurmam, the Lord ensured his well-being in the forests of Sri Kurmam by personally attending to his needs. Taking the guise of a small boy, the Lord himself ran all the necessary chores and served Swami Ramanuja. Swami Ramanuja found that the deity at the Sanctum Sanctorum of Sri Kurmam was a Swayambhu, or naturally occurring stone, and it had a distinct shape of the fossiled structure of a turtle. The Lord appeared in the Acharya's dream to inform him that the deity was none other than the manifestation of the Kurma Avatara of the Lord. Sri Ramanuja also discussed it with the locals and was surprised to note that while many of them already considered the deity as Sri Kurma, there was still a dispute in the village about the true identity of the deity. It is said that to convince everyone that was indeed a manifestation of Lord Vishnu, Swami Ramanuja requested the deity to turn towards him, towards the west. The deity did as was told. Hence, another Dvajastambha, an entrance pillar, was constructed for the new direction in which the deity faced. This is one of the rare temples in which there are two Dvajastambhas. Swami Ramanuja visited the holy shrine of Simhachala and met Krishnamacharya, an accomplished poet who was also a great influence on Saint Annamacharya. A staunch devotee of the Lord, he was blessed to converse directly with the Lord of Simhachala. The Lord categorically declared to Krishnamacharya that moksha is guaranteed for Swami Ramanuja and anyone who has an association with him. Lord Varaha Narasimha Swami of Simhachalam also emphatically declared to Krishnamacharya that means for his salvation is to follow the footsteps of Swami Ramanuja. From there on, Krishnamacharya became an ardent disciple of Swami Ramanuja. Swami Ramanuja carried out the unfulfilled wishes of his great preceptor, Swami Alavandar. In order to pay homage to the legacies of the great sages, Swami Ramanuja named the sons of Kuresha as Parashara and Vyasa, and the son of Siriyagovinda Perumal, that is younger brother of Sri Embar, as Parankusha, which is another name for Nammalvar. And in order to preserve the true meaning and message of the Brahma Sutras, Swami Ramanuja wrote his magnum opus Sri Bhashya, the foremost of the authoritative texts on Vedanta. One day, during the grand procession of Sri Ranganatha, Swami Ramanuja came across an amusing sight. A wrestler by the name Dhanurdasa, oblivious of the Lord's convoy and the huge crowd around, was busy shielding an exquisitely beautiful, large-eyed young lady from the scorching rays of the sun with an umbrella. "If I can show you more beautiful eyes, will you give up the obsession with temporary beauty?" asked Swami Ramanuja, and escorted Dhanurdasa to the Sanctum Sanctorum of the temple, where Dhanurdasa, with the grace of Ramanuja, experienced supreme eternal bliss with the divine vision of the two large lotus eyes of Lord Ranganatha. Having experienced the bliss even gods long for, the highly fortunate Dhanurdasa gave up his profession of wrestling, overcame his obsession for worldly pleasures, and surrendered to Swami Ramanuja. Ramanuja, the redeemer of the fallen, embraced Dhanurdasa and blessed him. Recognizing Dhanurdasa's devotion, dispassion, modesty, and right conduct, Swami Ramanuja always made it a point to highlight the fact that it is the qualities of the head and heart which are the causes of good, not the caste. When asked to test how the low-caste couple Dhanurdasa and Hemamba would react to a loss of a possession, few Brahmanas tried to steal the ornaments of Hemamba. Kind-hearted Hemamba feigned sleep and tried to facilitate the removal of her ornaments from both her sides by pretending to change sides during sleep. Seeing her move, the Brahmanas ran away with ornaments from only one side. Later, they were shocked to overhear Dhanurdhasa replying to his wife's account of the theft. "You have not conquered your ego. Your possessory attitude deprived you of fully helping the Brahmanas and getting rid of your unworthy gold ornaments. Had you remained still, the Brahmanas could have taken all ornaments from both sides." No wonder Swami Ramanuja held Dhanurdhasa in high esteem and relentlessly reiterated the significance of right conduct over caste. Once, when a dumb man approached him, Swami Ramanuja stood up and beckoned the man to touch his feet. The dumb man began to tremble and cry in ecstasy as he touched Swami Ramanuja's lotus feet. When all the disciples returned, they were amazed to see this man's ecstasy, symptomatic of the highest transcendental realization. They asked, "How could such a thing like this happen to him?" Swami Ramanuja answered, "He touched my feet in full surrender. Although he cannot understand one word of philosophy, being deaf and dumb, he has attained all perfection." When one of Alavandar's disciples, Sri Maraner Nambi, passed away, Periya Nambi performed the last rites, in spite of the fact that Maraner Nambi was from a lower caste. When the orthodox community around questioned him of his action, Periya Nambi recalled that Sri Rama performed the last rites of Jatayu and added he was neither superior to Sri Rama nor was Maraner Nambi inferior to Jatayu. However, the community decided to isolate Periya Nambi. Once, when Lord Ranganatha was taking a procession, the temple car came to a complete halt at the entrance of Periya Nambi's house and refused to move. Only after Periya Nambi was given the respects due to him, the temple car allowed itself to proceed, and that too behind a palanquin carrying the great Mahatma. It took Lord Ranganatha to demonstrate the greatness of Periya Nambi. The Chola king Krimikantha, a short-sighted religious bigod, was incompetent to understand the universal philosophy of Swami Ramanuja and refused to accept his eminence. When he summoned Ramanuja to court, Kuresha decided to masquerade as his master and paid a visit to the tyrant's court accompanied by Periya Nambi and his daughter Atturai. Swami Ramanuja, yielding to the prayers of Kuresha and other disciples, decided to move away from Srirangam and headed to the forest westward. King Krimikantha coerced and intimidated Kuresha to accept his narrow-minded faith that rested on the basis of complete rejection of all other faiths and their relentless persecution. When Kuresha, the enlightened devotee, unperturbed by any threats, remained steadfast on his faith in Sriman Narayana as the Supreme Being, the enraged Chola king ordered his men to torture Kuresha and pluck out his eyes. In order to avoid the persecution of the oppressive Chola king, Swami Ramanuja, on Lord Ranganatha's decree, travelled to Tirunarayanapuram, Melkote. Encountering soldiers of the Chola king who tried to stop him travelling, Swami Ramanuja used his divine powers by transforming a handful of sand into a big sandhill that prevented the soldiers from further pursuing him. En route to Melkote, Swami Ramanuja and his disciples encountered several hardships in the forest, including inclement weather. Midway through the journey, a fortunate group of devotees, disciples of the illustrious Nallan Chakravarti, happened to come across Swami Ramanuja and his followers and received blessings from the Master. During one of his halts in the forest, Swami Ramanuja accepted offerings of honey made with devotion and reverence by the local hunter community. On his way to Tirunarayanapuram, that is Melkotte, Swami Ramanuja went through a small town where Kongu Piratti was living. Several years before, Kongu Piratti was in Srirangam and she had the good fortune of receiving Swami Ramanuja's blessings and also his divine padukas, his footwear. She recounted her divine experiences in Srirangam and demonstrated her devotion and association to her master's lotus feet by showing the esteemed assemblage his divine padukas that were in her possession. And with utmost pity, she honored all the Mahatmas by serving them food. The maimed Kuresha, having lost his eyesight but not his divine vision of the ultimate reality, along with Sri Periyanambi and his daughter Atturai, returned from the court of the malevolent Krimikanta Chola. On the way back, Sri Periyanambi, having completed his mission on earth successfully, passed away and reached the lotus feet of the Lord. His mortal remains were carried to Srirangam and the last rites were performed. The persecution of the tyrannical Chola king continued unabated. When admission to the Srirangam temple was banned for all the disciples of Swami Ramanuja, Sri Kuresha, with heavy heart, decided to move out of Srirangam and travelled to Tirumalirun Cholai near Madurai along with his wife Andal. Swami Ramanuja and his entourage reached Mithila Saligrama, two villages 80 kilometers west of Mysore, which were set amidst sylvan surroundings with lush green fields, trees, canals, and many water sources. After praying to the Lord Yoga Narasimha, Swami Ramanuja asked Mudaliyandan, that is Dasarathi, one of his two chief disciples, the other being Kuresha, to dip his feet in one of the water sources there. The villagers, after drinking the water, all became ardent devotees of the Acharya. It was here at Saligramam that Swami Ramanuja got another important disciple known as Andhra Purna or Vaduganambi. On reaching Tondanur, Mandya in Karnataka, Swami Ramanuja was approached by his local disciple Tondanur Nambi to cure their king Bittideva's daughter who was possessed by an evil spirit. The ever-compassionate Swami Ramanuja relieved the princess of her ailment by driving away the evil spirit that possessed her. Highly influenced by Swami Ramanuja, King Bittideva of Karnataka embraced the Sri Vaishnava way of life and assumed the name of Vishnuvardhana. The resentful local population of Jains confronted Swami Ramanuja, and a group of 12,000 Jain scholars engaged the master in a debate, only to eventually admit their mistake and accept defeat. The entire local population, including those who were initially hostile, recognized the divinity of Swami Ramanuja and surrendered to him, seeking blessings and salvation. One day, Lord Sriman Narayana appeared in Swami Ramanuja's dream and informed him that his image can be retrieved from a nearby pit in a hill. With the help of King Bittideva, Swami Ramanuja discovered the deity and performed consecration of the Tirunarayanapuram temple, today's Melkotte. One day, the Lord of Yadavadri, Melkotte, appeared in Swami Ramanuja's dream and said, "My child, I am pleased with your service. But as I have no Utsava Vigraha, that is, the festival deity usually taken around in a procession during temple festivals, I cannot go out of the temple to bless my devotees. Therefore, hasten to bring my second image named Sampath Kumara, which is now in the custody of the Emperor of Delhi. Being thus decreed by the Lord, Ramanuja, with his entourage, set out for Delhi. Hearing the news of Swami Ramanuja's arrival, the Nawab of Delhi, initially apprehensive, consulted his ministers and on their advice sent his Qazi to invite Swami Ramanuja to his court. The Nawab was much entranced by the glorious demeanor of Swami Ramanuja and was enchanted by Swami's erudition, compassion, nobility, greatness, and wanted to know the purpose of Swami's visit. Ramanuja petitioned for the image of Lord Sampath Kumara and the Nawab readily agreed. Swami was then taken inside a hall where he found many of the deities removed from several temples of India. On Swami Ramanuja's earnest call, the idol of Lord Sampath Kumara miraculously reached out to him. Learning that this particular image was very dear to the Nawab's daughter, Bibi Lachimar, Swami Ramanuja sought the Nawab's consent to take the image back to Yadavadri, Melkote. Ramanuja was relentlessly pursued by the pious daughter of the Nawab while he was coming away with the idol of Lord Sampath Kumara. By the divine power of a devotion acquired through many births, Bibi Lachimar could recognize the image of Sampath Kumara as the Lord of the universe and by surrendering to him got immersed in the ocean of beatitude. Her divine union with the Lord was solemnized through a marriage ceremony. Swami Ramanuja installed the deity of Sampath Kumara in the temple of Yadavadri, Melkote with all pomp and fervor. As one with eyes does not require the help of anyone else to see the sun, so the princess, Nawab's daughter Bibi Lachimar, who was all devotion to Sriman Narayana and whose vision had been cleansed by the collyrium of knowledge, did not require the help of others to be united with Lord Sampath Kumara, who was dearer to her than her very own life. Swami Ramanuja and his disciples witnessed Bibi Lachimar's communion with the Lord as her pure frame got dissolved in the body of the Lord. Swami Ramanuja then decided to return to the service of Lord Ranganatha in Srirangam. In order to pacify his crestfallen devotees in Melkote who were unable to bear the separation of their master, Swami Ramanuja manifested his divine powers in an Archa Vigraha, an image of himself, and handed over the same to his followers. Bidding farewell to his beloved Yadavadri, Swami Ramanuja started his journey back to Srirangam. Swami Ramanuja was ecstatic when he came to know that his beloved disciple Kuresha had deemed himself blessed on securing the supreme welfare of his enemies responsible for plucking out his eyeballs by praying to Lord Varadaraja for their salvation. Pleased with Kuresha, the Lord said, "What you have asked of me, Kuresha, shall be boon not only for thee, but also a boon conferred upon everyone that has any sort of kinship with thee." The Lord also granted Kuresha divine eyes. On his way back to Srirangam from Melkote, Swami Ramanuja halted at Thirumaluruncholai near Madurai to fulfill Saint Andal's prayer. Earlier, that immaculate saint who was devotion personified, Andal, had offered 100 jars full of sweet rice and 100 jars of butter to Lord Sundarabahu if the Lord would graciously accept her hand. This unfulfilled pledge of Andal was accomplished by Swami Ramanuja, and hence he came to be known as Godagraja, elder brother of Andal. Swami Ramanuja appointed 74 disciples called the Simhasanadhipatis to propagate Sanatana Dharma and teach people the importance of surrender to Lord Narayana as the means for liberation. Unflinching devotion to their master, Swami Ramanuja, was a key hallmark of all his disciples. Vaduganambi, who personified the spirit of service, was even ready to forego worship of Lord Ranganatha in order to devote his time to serve his master, Swami Ramanuja. Vaduganambi, the exemplary disciple of Swami Ramanuja, considered selfless service to his Guru as his foremost duty. Once, as Swami Ramanuja walked through a flooded Kaveri river along with his entourage of disciples, Vaduganambi ensured that Swami's sacred sandals, worshipped by all his devotees, were protected by personally carrying them in a safe box. Swami Ramanuja sent a disciple to learn the philosophy of right conduct from Periya Thirumalai Nambi. Nobility and greatness, the hallmarks of a true Vaishnava, come from conducting oneself like a crane, a rooster, and salt. Just like a crane which patiently waits for the best prey to catch, ignoring small and ordinary fishes, a true Vaishnava ignores ordinary mortals and awaits the arrival of a true master, so that he may surrender to that Mahatma through devotional service. Like the rooster picking up the good grains from the chaff, the Vaishnava will always make right choices. Just as salt dissolves itself in food by losing its identity and becomes useful thereby, a true Vaishnava, free of ego or arrogance and always humble and devoted to the well-being of humanity, effaces himself in selfless service to Bhagavan, Bhagavata and his Acharya. The ever-compassionate Swami Ramanuja constantly meditated on the good of all living beings. He granted moksha even to the creatures that inhabited the holy waters of the Chandra Pushkarini, the temple tank located in the temple of Srirangam. Simple events in Swami Ramanuja's life provide profound messages. Though he was a highly revered preceptor, he was a child at heart and was always easily accessible to anyone who approached him. In one instance, in the streets of Srirangam, some little children were celebrating Ekadashi festival with utmost sincerity and devotion. When Swami passed by, the children walked up to him and offered him a fistful of sand as Lord's prasad. To the delight of the children, Swami Ramanuja gracefully accepted the sand as prasad, uttering Dhanyosmi. I am blessed. Dhanyosmi. Mudaliyandan's son Kandadayandan got an Archa Vigraha, a divine idol for worship of Swami Ramanuja, and presented the same to him. In order to please all his devotees, Swami hugged the idol and transferred his divine powers to it. This Vigraha was brought with all pomp and fervor to Sri Perumbudur, the birthplace of Swami Ramanuja, and was installed in the temple there. We are eternally indebted to Sri Thiruvarangattamudanaar, who composed Ramanuja Nutrandadi, a divine collection of 108 hymns on the glories of Swami Ramanuja. This work is also called Prapanna Gayatri, as its regular recitation prepares a true seeker for Sharanagati.